Welcome to the segment where I review movies past and present, examining them from a variety of perspectives, including the subjective, psychological, and personal. Informative and occasionally funny, this is LoganLand Rants. Welcome to LoganLand Rants, and today we'll be talking about the movie Drive. Full disclosure, I did watch Drive shortly before viewing this podcast, shortly before making this podcast, and believe it or not, this means it's fresh in my brain. Now, I love the movie, obviously. It's one of few movies that have blown me away. In fact, I say it blew me away about as much as Life of Pi, which I talked about last week. You see, Drive is one of those movies that's visually dazzling but has a great story in addition. It's just really effective in how it delivers and elicits emotion. It's really difficult to say that. It's directed by Nicholas Winding Refn, who I've honestly never seen any other film by him, but I want to see like 15 more. Because he makes phenomenal films. It's really hard to sell him short. But the story is basically similar to Baby Driver, which is an Edgar Wright film I particularly enjoy. Edgar Wright is in no way related to Nicholas Winding Refn, but I think he's worth noting. You see, Baby Driver is kind of a carbon copy of Drive. There are some differences, like in Baby Driver, the driver in question, played by Ansel Elgort, is a much nicer character than Ryan Gosling's driver, in, obviously, Nicholas Winding Refn's version. Baby Driver and Drive have many similarities, but a lot of them are believed to have dated back to the Driver movie, not related to Fast and Furious, because honestly I'm not a huge fan of those. Not a huge fan, anyway. Back to Drive. I'm a much bigger fan of Drive than, say, Fast and Furious, because Fast and the Furious has a bunch of crazy car stunts. Drive does have some car stunts, but they're not only rarer, and that maximizes the impact a little bit, but they're a lot more effective in how they're delivered. And the opening car chase is a very slow burn police chase that turns very mysterious and very effective. It's kind of hard to describe the scene without seeing it, and I highly recommend anyone who is a fan of art house or action cinema to see it. In my opinion, one of the best car chases I've seen since The French Connection. But Nicholas Winding Refn proves himself to be a visual master. Like, the way he directs scenes is clearly inspired by he's thinking of every camera angle, every light is ridiculously effective. In fact, I recently posted a filmmaker forum post where I asked what scene would you replicate the most, and my personal favorite was an old friend of mine detailing that he'd replicate the Drive scene. To be clear, I'm not endorsing non-original storytelling. Do not replicate movie scenes, just make your own. But I thought that's a really effective scene. The elevator scene in Drive is beyond great and worth analyzing and worth watching, definitely. Drive has a lot more things going for it, like the driver almost never speaks and we're forced to empathize with him through his facial expressions, which I'd argue is a much more effective visual presentation than anything else in the movie. Although the other characters, Carey Mulligan obviously shines in his small parts. All the actors shine really well, even Bryan Cranston as kind of the driver, Ryan Gosling's mentor. All of it's particularly effective. Like, all the performances are great. The gangsters are great. The driver is great. The love interest is great. The love interest's shitty husband is great. Yes, she's married. Don't think about that. Or at least is married to a jailbird who gets out of jail closer to the midpoint of the story. Spoiler alert. But regardless, Drive is very entertaining for all the reasons I mentioned. It's definitely worth it. I personally am a bigger fan of Baby Driver. Well, I'm not a bigger fan. I'm a bigger fan of the director of Baby Driver. But overall, I think Drive is a better movie. Drive and Baby Driver, which is made by Edgar Wright, I want that to be crystal clear. One is made by Edgar Wright and has the title Baby in it. The other is directed by a Swedish, I don't know what his nationality is, but a guy named Nicholas Winding Refn, and he made just Drive. Like, keep that in mind. The guy with the complicated name, Drive. The guy with the simple name, Baby Driver. Both are kind of getaway driver-style movies. Baby Driver maybe has the crazier car stunts, but I think Drive has the better ones, in my opinion. Both are ridiculously effective in how they deliver all of their great scenes. Like both movies have great scenes, but I think Drive just elevates them a little bit in the visual flourish, which is saying something, because Edgar Wright's known for his fast edits and like really quick, you know? I was snapping just then to deliver a point, you know what I mean. There's a lot I could say about Drive beyond its visual presentation. I will admit it's a little violent, and obviously violence is not for everyone. It's not Quentin Tarantino violent, but it's still pretty brutal in some parts, including the elevator scene, which ends spectacularly and brutally in a way you wouldn't expect. And obviously there might be some moments that require a suspense of disbelief, and it ends kind of tragically. It maybe works out, but for the most part it's kind of difficult to describe how it ends, but it's a saddening and kind of slow burn of an ending that makes you be like, huh, that was sad. And it's kind of sad in a way that you really have to work for, and people who want a simple story, this probably isn't for you, but if you want an effective and well-delivered, arguably complex story, then it might be for you. Now, that being said, violence and complicatedness and working for emotions aside, it's really effective in its driver scenes. The acting is obviously superb. And there isn't a whole lot to say, but Baby Driver, on the other hand, it has a better director, in my opinion. Edgar Wright has made great films like Hot Fuzz, Shaun of the Dead, etc., etc. But I do think that Edgar Wright kind of pales in comparison to Wyndon Refn's one film that I've seen, which I think is better. Although Shaun of the Dead is really good, and I think that scale of 1 to 10, I see Hot Fuzz over and over again, and definitely will for the foreseeable future. But I love Drive. I just love Drive. It's hard to explain. I don't quite love it as much as Toy Story, which was the first movie I ever saw. But I do love it as a movie and as an adult. And I think it's absolutely important for people who love cinema to see it. Because truth be told, if you love cinema, you can probably tolerate most of the violence out there. But I do think if you are kind of queasy stomach, maybe don't watch it. It's your own opinion, your own life. Go choose. But Drive is effective. And The French Connection is also effective, but both are car chase movies, just one is a little old school, and Drive is definitely new school. Like, from 2011 compared to 1979, I believe, or 71, I believe The French Connection was. I don't know the exact date. But if we're talking car chase movies, those would be my 3 recommendations, at least for now. Maybe add the remake of The Italian Job. I need to see the original, definitely. But there's a lot of great car chase movies out there, is my point. And if we're talking, like, car chase movies are great. Like, I'm talking about Drive mostly, but the Fast and the Furious movies are not for everyone, and I personally don't enjoy them as much. But controversial opinion, definitely hot take, Tokyo Drift is actually kind of effective, because it's a martial arts movie combined with a high school sports movie that you wouldn't really expect, and I can understand it being kind of a break from the Fast and Furious formula that people kind of expected at that point. But overall, I think that those would be like top 5 car chase movies in my opinion. Not in any particular order. The Italian Job, Drive, Baby Driver, Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift, and French Connection. Those are all, if not good, they're usually great starter, like, you know, car chase movies, I guess you'd call them. I need to see more Fast and Furious because I hear it gets good, or at least crazier, after the 5th movie. With all that in mind, Drive, kind of accented by these other choices, the fact that it makes it on that pantheon is good enough. But if you want to see car chase movies, or you don't, then think about your taste going in, because obviously if you don't like Drive, I don't hold it against you. Just keep in mind that Drive is pretty good, and that I really enjoy it, and I think other people can enjoy it too. With that in mind, feel free to like, subscribe, pledge to the Patreon that you're seeing this podcast here. And I will see you next week with a new podcast. This is actually the season finale. Well, of season 1 anyway, in my opinion. Episode 12. Each season has 12 seasons in my mind. I mean, each season has 12 episodes in my mind. And it will be on a great movie, The Prestige. See you next week. Logan out.